Gotta get this social media stuff popping off. I already got it copy and pasted in the window though, so it's all good. Paste, send that out. Bam, send that out. Last episode we had, actually we're kind of popping off. I'm not even gonna lie. I know it's been a while because quadball keeps getting in the way of real life for me, which shouldn't surprise anyone. If I have a week where I have to travel out of town for quadball, I will not be doing my show, and that actually is like an accidental thing that happened or whatever. Because I used to try and do both, but you know, sometimes you just can't, man. Sometimes you can't, and I was one of those people. I just couldn't do it, man. Man, dude, I really, man, there's something wrong with the formatting on my computer, and it sucks ass, like a lot. Preferences. Let's see something. Shortcuts doesn't have. Output limiter. Yeah, man. It doesn't, nope. There's no way to minimize it or maximize it. Love that. Anyway. Yeah, man. Sorry. Wrong theme song. There we go. Alright, let's get it popping here in a second. Let's see. Challenge notebook 0000. There we go. There we go. Open up all the channels. Do a little sound check here real quick. Okay. Alright, we're good on Facebook. Let's check the old YouTubes. You know. Stream Elements popping off. Stream Elements popping off. Appreciate you, Stream Elements. Always doing your job. That's what I pay you the big bucks for. Let's see. And YouTube, my bad. Gotta check YouTube real quick. Update. Ooh. Oh, man. I didn't change the name. Wait, yes, I did. I didn't change the name. Damn. Hold on. Oh, boy. I messed that up big time, bro. This is not my Team USA Quadball reaction. I messed something up. Sorry. I have to fix it afterwards. Ooh, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix it after the video. Damn, I just realized that. That's messed up. It's funny because like on my... Yeah, let me copy and paste it real quick and put it in... Ooh, man. Yeah, I gotta change that. There we go, there we go. Bro, the formatting is so bad on my PC. It's crazy right now. Click on it. Show it to me real quick. Ooh, man. They're giving me a notification about mods, and I'm like, cool, because last time I streamed a video or whatever, I was streaming one time on YouTube, and somebody just spelled out nigga in the chat. It was weird. It was weird because like it was unnecessary. It was not a person that I know at all. Anyway, let's get the show started. Damn, what a false start to start off with, man. Anyway, we're gonna power through. Going live in 3, 2, 1. What it do, baby? It is another episode, another reaction episode to the challenge. Season 38, this is for episodes 9, 10, and 11. 11 is the most recent one that just dropped. So technically, this is the earliest reaction I've ever done for an episode. It's also the latest reaction I've ever done for episodes 9 and 10. But we don't need to talk about that. We need to talk about our big dubs here. Anyway, appreciate everybody for checking out the stream, wherever you may be watching, whether it be on Twitch, on Facebook, or on YouTube. Check it out on YouTube and on Twitch. Just type in Broke Boy Sports. Follow me on Twitter. It's kind of scrolling through the entire time while I'm talking. All of those places you can find some sort of way to check this out. I'm trying to even work on getting IG Live hooked up to this whole thing, but IG Live has like a different formatting than everything else that I do, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's get down to it, man. We got a lot to talk about here, and I'm not gonna do the usual breakdown like I normally do for each individual episode, because these episodes as a whole were decidedly different, right? Like they were decisively different. 9, 10, and 11 all kind of merged together. In particular, 9 and 10, one of these episodes, there was not an elimination, and that is a very important factor to root into this whole thing. So, take it from the top. And let's talk about episode 9. The mini final has finally arrived. If you're not familiar with this dynamic, I'll explain it. It's something that is of a recent addition to the series as a whole. So, typically the final in general is the deciding factor for, and if you've never watched the challenge before, the final is it's basically an ultra marathon, like an ultimate obstacle course that goes for like literally miles across like crazy landscapes on a regular basis for each one of the shows, right? So as the show continues to develop and go on and stuff like that, you'll notice there's like a massive difference in terms of what the final looks like in comparison to some of the challenges, but there are aspects from the regular season that get added into the final. The final is a true test, a big time true test of a lot of athleticism for a lot of these competitors. Anyway, there's a mini final now, which has become an added dynamic at the halfway point of the season. It has not always existed. It has been one of the newer additions to with the more recent situation in terms of like how the show is changing the way that it presents itself, its branding, all that kind of stuff like that. As a more it is an addition of the aspect of the challenge that has become like a sport, right? Where people watch it for like sports level entertainment, not necessarily for the drama. Yes, there are people who still watch it for the drama. I am not necessarily one of those people, but it is interesting to see how different dynamics in terms of who's in positions of power, who's not, who's trying to gain power as time goes on. All that kind of stuff like that. But the mini final is typically the longest daily challenge you are going to see throughout the course of the show. This one was relatively simple, but still very challenging. I think it was like 5 miles or something like that, based off of the distances that were set throughout the course of the show. So you start off with a gurney, you run to one location, you run with a gurney. It's like a giant stretcher or whatever, pretty large, heavy stretcher. You're running with your partner. We've already talked about this before, the dynamic of carrying a stretcher with a person. So the stretcher obviously has different heights based on the height of your partner. And if any of you ever go on the challenge, you have an opportunity to pick a partner, make sure that your height and your partner's height is a big factor in terms of selecting your partner, whether if you have control of that situation, because it weighs in heavy. Because you see stuff like Fessy and Mariah, where Mariah is literally, I think, half the height of Fessy or Fessel in this situation. They go through that whole challenge. They take the stretcher, they're running, all that kind of stuff like that. You have to work on communication because you can't run faster than your partner that probably has shorter legs than you, which in most cases is going to be the lady on the team. Has shorter legs, may not necessarily, well, probably has better cardio than you, let's be for real. Anyway, that being said, they get to the first challenge. The first challenge is to maneuver 3 barrels from one side of a field to another, and the field looks like it's like 25, maybe 40 yards or something like that, which is difficult because you can't touch the ground, but you can use your stretcher to rotate over the top of the barrels and then move the barrels to the front part of it. So you have 3 barrels, you put the stretcher on one of the 2 barrels, you and your partner get on top of your stretcher, walk across it, end up on the second barrel, the one that's furthest out. You have somebody who's staying behind, move the 3rd barrel to the side. You move the 3rd barrel that's not touching any of the stretcher to your partner, they're able to move it even further ahead so that the barrel that started off, like the first barrel at the very start line or whatever, your partner walks across. Now, they're responsible for pulling the first barrel to where the second one is, and you kind of like snake your way down by like maneuvering them slowly but surely across. In theory, you only need 2 barrels to do this, but it was difficult to add the third one in there. A lot of people looked like they were pretty successful at it, except like Bananas and Nani, who seemed like they were trying to throw this about halfway through it or whatever. We can talk about how that has become a big underlying story for a good chunk of the challenge this season. It is Bananas throwing challenges, not necessarily even Bananas. It is Bananas and other people potentially throwing challenges for the sake of entertainment, which is of course super annoying. It is a form of manipulation for the result of the show, and it also keeps the heat off you when you are a player that could potentially be a front runner, because you know the only objective is to get to the final, right? So anyway, the mini final happens. They're running through it, right? Like Nelson and Nerys get to the very front of this. They're dominating massive portions of this challenge. They even have a part where after you finish the barrel section, you pick up these weights, you put the weights on your stretcher, then you run another set distance to another field where you're going to have to, take the weights that were on top of your stretcher and then apply those weights to somebody else's sled that they have to pull to get the puzzle pieces to solve a Sudoku puzzle type deal. It's a bunch of cubes that have different shapes on. They have different shapes on each side. Like there's a sword, there's a star, there's a shield or whatever, and they're all on like dice. And your objective is to flip them so that all 4 shapes are showing, but none of the same 4 shapes are on the same side. So they're stacked in a tower. So you only can have a star, a sword, a shield, and then I forgot what or a heart. And it only has to be those 4 shapes on that side. There can be no duplicates. The logic seems to be take one shape, face it in one direction, and then make sure no other shape is facing in that same direction, and then it naturally works itself out. That is assuming that all of the dice have the same number of the same shape on each side, right? Apparently Fessel and Mariah figure this out instantaneously. They solve it, and Devin comments is like that if they're starting to solve puzzles in 10 seconds, it's pretty much game over for us, right? Devin and Tori are kind of keeping competition, but vast majority of the mini final is between Nelson and Nerys, and Fessy and Mariah competing for it. And Nelson and Nerys actually led 90% of this mini final. And then at the very last second, with that last puzzle, Fessy and Mariah took off and won. You know what I mean? That was huge. A lot of other competitors were having issues with their partners. And some teams, I felt like, chose to not sacrifice. Like, for instance, Jordan and Anissa. Jordan in particular was doing a good job of, like, when they were clearly out of the running because Anissa doesn't have the cardio and the conditioning to keep up with everybody else when she's running, plus carry this heavy ass stretcher. Jordan is like constantly making this joke of, we're gonna catch you the entire time that the challenge is going on, right? It is a way for him to get his Jamie LeFranc on Facebook. I'm a massive challenge fan. I think we talked about this during 2021 time before Total Madness went down, and you told me about what the format was or something like that. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm a massive challenge fan, man. But yeah, the final is cooking up. Everything is the mini final is cooking up. A lot of teams bailed on trying to win this final for the sake of maintaining their partnership. Like, for instance, Bananas and Nani, instead of like trying to kill themselves to come in like 3rd or 4th place, because they took too long on the barrel challenge in comparison to everybody else, so they probably felt like they were just completely out of range and had no chance of being able to get up front, right? They had that going on, so they chose to be entertaining. They had a situation where like Bananas is carrying Nani on the stretcher and asking like, where's the zone? Does anybody know which direction the zone is? We need to go there, because they feel like they were going to go into elimination, right? This also may have been a part of Bananas' elaborate underlying plan of just continuing to throw challenges, to not put heat on himself and not have to say anybody's name, because he probably caught on to the fact that everybody else in the house claims that they want him out of the game, but we're trying to figure out how to do it. Anyway, that being said, Fessy and Mariah end up beating out Nelson and Nerese by what looked to be a pretty close margin when it's all said and done, and they gain the most powerful aspect of the entire game so far, and it is the ability to set up the new teams for the second half of the season. So they are the show does a pretty bad job of explaining that how they're going to pick the teams, right? So they make it seem like you can pick anybody, as opposed to the dynamic of you pick a person and then their ride or die goes to the other side, right? And maybe they were trying to keep that hidden until they got to the zone and talked about that, but they did not do a good job of presenting that, because they had to have known that Fessy and Mariah had to talk about that dynamic of the selection process when they put them in the interrogation room against each other. They had to argue and have a long lasting conversation a bunch of the time that they were in a long conversation being inside of the interrogation room, obviously, because each one of them has people that they want on their team and people that they don't want. I think there's a bigger value in avoiding the bombs that are in this situation, and at the heart of it all, the bombs they're two different genders, so it's not too hard to kind of avoid it. So you want, like, obviously everybody wants Casey if they can get her in some way, shape, or form, right? Nobody wants Kenny. Kenny has not proven very much of himself on this show. He seems like a really nice guy. That doesn't get people far in the challenge. We know that. Historically, it does not. There's not a nice guy winner. The nicest person to ever win the challenge is probably Darrell. And he had to win it by, like, just being overwhelmingly better than all of his opponents, right? Very little of what Darrell did was centered around an alliance and social game, right? So yeah, Jamie LaFranc in the chat on Facebook saying that he'd take Tori over Casey. Okay, I would take, and this is another thing too, I haven't seen anything out of Tori recently because like last season, I picked Tori to win. Hold on a second here. We gotta boot somebody out of here. Thanks, dude. So in terms of like Tori over Casey, as of late, because I picked Tori to win last season because I thought she was going to absolutely run roughshod over last season, because I thought, one, she had ascended to being the number one woman on the challenge, which is a very difficult feat to get, as you can tell in a lot of these cases. Every season there's like 2 or 3 ladies who are on the show that are there because of their social game is elite. The other ladies in particular out there are there because of like a great combination of social game and a lot of people wanting them on their team because of their athletic ability. So Casey, I get why people would question, but I don't want Kenny. Yeah, so it makes sense. Yeah, so that was the thing too. I personally, I get why people want Casey on their team, because they just are afraid of her because she used to play football, and so she's got a level of explosiveness, speed, and agility that just some of the ladies just don't have because they haven't spent the time doing the training that Casey has, right? A lot of people will tell you there's such thing as gym muscles, and a lot of people on the challenge, Josh, have gym muscles, right? They look impressive in those super tight Under Armour shirts and hoodies and all that kind of stuff like that, but they don't have like actual athletic muscle, right? Because, like, once again, Josh versus Jordan. Jordan in killer shape, right? Josh in amazing shape. Fact of the matter is, Jordan 100, maybe 200 times the athlete that Josh is. And they probably spend relatively the same amount of time in the gym. I don't know what Josh's athletic history is in terms of sports or whatever, but we know for a fact Jordan played like every sport under the sun when he was a kid. One, because he was just one of those guys. So he has like a different brain plus a different type of body that goes along with it. So like Casey has the athletic body. Tori, as far as we know sports-wise, doesn't really have like much of an elaborate history or whatever, but she has proven time and time again, one, she's pretty fast, just in general. She's one of the fastest people in the house, has the strength to go along with it, and the social game, because she doesn't tend to really piss people off. And I totally get why people want Tori over Casey, but when you're Fessel, you're picking Casey, person that you trust, one of the few people on this entire show that you really don't have to question anything about at all, right? Like, Tori is a person that has very clear lines in terms of who she messes with and who she doesn't, but she can be swayed different ways because she hangs out with people outside of the house. Whereas, like, Casey has, like, made distinct actions and efforts to, like, not hang out with people, right? For instance, like, I still cannot wrap my brain around why the Big Brother Alliance refuses to accept Amber as a member of their alliance. Because time and time again, she proves that she is one of the deadliest challengers in the entire show. And why would you want to go up against her? And I think the only benefit is that everybody has decided they don't mess with Amber. As opposed to what, if Amber had people who were trying to align themselves with her, it'd be totally different, right? The parody of the so we got another comment here from Jamie. The parody of the girls this season is so much better. In an average daily, none of those girls left are slouches. That's true. And even in certain situations, that's the problem, right? Like, even in certain situations, you see Nany and you see Anissa. One, Nany's been training inside the house from everything that I've been in. I've seen multiple training montages of Nany, and I know that there's been seasons where she has not done any physical training whatsoever. It seems like she's dialed in to go out there and win the challenge, go out there and take the final this season, which is cool to see, man. She's also got the longest consecutive season streak going on right now, and depending on how this one goes, she's performing better than she ever has, or like better than I've seen her do in recent years. Anissa, on the other hand, you know, I've heard that she's been picking up CrossFit from another podcast that I watch, Love War Challenges. Shout out to those folks. I don't agree with some of the things that they say. There's very clearly some closeted misogyny on some of the in some of the things that some of the guys say on that show, but they do have some good points to make about the episode in general to think about. But yeah, no, that's what happened. So the new teams get selected. A couple of things. They are very confusing about how the teams are selected, right? Like, they don't explain the dynamic of you pick this person, their ride or die automatically goes to the other side. That dynamic is very important because you can pick people who are very good athletes and competitors that aren't necessarily super connected to their ride or die, which, unfortunately, early on in this season, we've seen all the quote-unquote ride or dies. Like, there's some people who are like, oh, man, like, I don't really understand your connection to each other, but they told me that you guys are cool with each other. Like, if Nam and the young lady, Emma, I believe her name, had made it to this point, they would be prime candidates for, I doubt these people are actually really friends with each other. They're both just German, right? And you would go for, I don't know, depending on what happened. Didn't look like Emma was having that much of a good time, which is why she left the show. Nam, same thing, right? You would go for Nam. Nam, easily one of the best athletes on the entire show and everything like that. But yeah, they separate the teams. They have not assigned new jersey colors. So, like, they're Team Purple and Team Orange, but everybody's still wearing the purple challenge gear. It's really weird. It's really weird to me, man. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Shout out to, I don't know, man. I guess Under Armour is a little late on the delivery or whatever, or maybe the teams don't matter for as much as we think they actually do. It's like wholeheartedly very strange to me because they even had, when they had the team aspect of last season, they had them wear different colored jerseys for like the 3 episodes that everybody was on a team together. You know what I mean? Anyway, moving on. The major twist in this whole thing is, one, the team aspect of it, because it changes the dynamic. It dilutes the ability for somebody to influence a group of people, right? You want to be in a team with everybody who's in your alliance to a certain degree. You also want people who have tight ride or dies. Like, for instance, the deadliest situation in terms of relationship right now is Casey, Kenny, and Nany, right? Because Nany and Kenny are on the same team. Casey is automatically not a vote for Nani or Kenny at any given point, and that's a very rare situation, right? Where there's just like the hardcore, that Casey is not going to say her brother's name. Casey is not going to say Nani's name. So if you want either of those people to go into elimination, you're going to have to work around that, and you're probably going to have to deceive Casey in some way, shape, or form, which there's a way to work around it, and it did happen. Anyway, episode 9, they ended by sorting the teams out. The big thing that you take away from this is that, Devin gets picked last, and that was like the biggest joke because Devin has been dominating this season in terms of his hilarity and his entertainment of the people, right? So when the teams are all sorted out, Mariah gets Kenny and Jordan, Horacio, Nerese, Amber, Nani, and Devin. Plus her, right? Plus Mariah. All the new people. She gets a whole crop of the new people and the outsiders, right? Devin is an insider, I guess you can say, in terms of like the main alliance and people who are running the show or whatever. But like Amber, Nerese, Nerese potential rookie of the year, Horacio rookie of the year in my opinion, Jordan, Kenny, Nani is of course the biggest insider out of everyone, and Amber as well. Really strong ladies in terms of her skill set and in terms of what they see on that one. So Jamie comments, they definitely got picked last because they are the most even pair along with like Olivia and Horacio. Correct, because there was no downside to getting either one of those people, right? There was a major downside to controlling which is you see something in the selection process. Mariah waits around before openly picking Nerese, right? She's like, well, at the worst case scenario, I know that Fessie's gonna take Nelson at some point, so I don't need to waste a pick calling Nerese over to my team when I'm automatically gonna get her at some point because Nelson is gonna pick Fessie, right? Fessie's gonna pick Nelson. Kenny, on the other hand, obviously a dump off situation. Fessie ends up with Casey, the person he calls his quote true ride or die, right? Nelson on his team, Nelson and Nerese have been dominating this entire season, so separating them is going to be a big problem. Also, they seem really tight, so they're one of those connections that you got to be concerned about if you are really worried about potential betrayal coming on later in this season. Nerese has got to be at the top of the list. Wasn't Nerese a fan in the but holy shit, she is made for the challenge. Love her on this show. Should have been on this show years ago. So yeah, that's what I've heard from other people. Nerese was supposed to be like a Target ad for Target addition to the show like a while ago, and it took them a long time to get her. Apparently Nerese is also like super popping on TikTok and other platforms outside. Same thing with Raven. I was watching Destroying, who is a really famous he has like millions of he has millions of YouTube subscribers. He's a ex college football kicker who got kicked off his team because he refused to give back his money that he had earned as a YouTuber, which would be laughable in the age that we live in now. He refused to do that. He went full-time as a YouTube creator, and now he has like millions of followers, and he's like sponsored by Hulu and a bunch of these other places. He's sponsored by NFL Network, all that kind of stuff like that. He's big time. Anyway, he was hosting a quote-unquote NFL combine. He called it the Baddie Combine, and he basically had like Instagram models run, I think it was like a 40-yard dash, an L drill. He had them catch punts and do some other stuff as well. So one of the baddies, if you will, was Raven from earlier this season in the challenge. And it took me a second to piece it together. And I was like, they don't spell Raven like that very often. Is that Raven from the challenge? And she does a diary entry on a bench where they have like a microphone. They talk to her just like in the challenge, right? Checking in after one of her challenges. She actually gets like 24 points and misses the cut for the $5,000 one-on-ones in terms of like football by I think like 1 or 2 points or something like that. She actually did really well, which is not surprising based on what we saw in this season of the challenge. So hopefully MTV was watching that and they were like, hold on. You got a whole bunch of Instagram models doing athleticism testing, and we got confirmed numbers on 40 times and agility and social interaction, and they have built-in followers. I'm just saying, if there was ever if there was ever a combine of all combines for the challenge, is to get more strong ladies who have big personalities in the show. It seemed like that YouTube video may have been a really strong lead. Shout out to Raven, though. She did finish just shy of being able to get to the football one-on-ones, and she looked like one of the better ladies in terms of oh yeah, no, this is the rookie class for this season of the challenge has been insane. Just like you look at Mariah is a person that I think some of us want to see come back. We know for sure we want Horacio. We know for sure we want Olivia. She's been dominating in the diary entries and of course in eliminations as well. We know for sure that we want Nerese to come back as well. And it's not often that you see every single rookie, because I think even at the end of it all, we talk about Kim and Colleen. I think a lot of people really liked Kim and Colleen to come back. Like that's for real. Like there's very few rookies where we're like, you should not be here. Like you should, it's very few, and I hate to say this because she seems like a very nice lady and actually was really endearing. I think during Total Madness, it was hands down. We don't see too many big T's in the show, right? Like one of those, like a group of a rookie that's just like, wow, man, like you're here for the social game and because you look pretty, right? And everybody, and you're real nice to everybody, right? She got carried multiple seasons, and it did not end well, is the way we'll put it, right? She was the number one person of like, I suck at like literally every single challenge, but I'm really upset when people don't want to be my partner. Jamie LaFranc in the Facebook chat over here. Horacio, Olivia, Johnny, Raven, Nerese, Jack, Mariah are for sure callbacks. Kim and Colleen, I wouldn't be upset about. Even Kayla's husband. Yeah, Kayla's husband was pretty funny for that one season, or for that one episode where he was just like, I'm gonna run things around here. Don't know about Jack. Jack looks like gym muscles, but he was funny and he did have fly ass shirts. Like the flyest fits. The flyest fits was Jack. He also did a good job of understanding the assignment of create as much drama as possible, because somebody slighted him in the slightest of slightest ways, and he took it to heart. Like forever. Anyway, the teams get divided up. Kenny, Jordan, Horacio, Nerese, Amber, Nani, and Devin. Fessy gets Nelson, Tori, Chauncey. My girlfriend is gone to calling him Chauncey. He is a black man from Boston, which we learned a little bit later on in episode 11. We'll talk about that. Anissa, Bananas, Olivia, and Casey. All pretty strong competitors because we've gotten to that point in the game. There's no elimination at the end of episode 9. Everybody just goes home. Which is cool. If this is the halfway point, I've seen major concerns about boredom, and apparently this is like a 20-plus episode season. I would agree if the format didn't, and I'll also put this out here, guys. It's 20-plus episodes. We're at episode 9 at the end of where I'm summarizing right now. So that means, in theory, there will be 11 episodes left. You can chop 4 of those off. The final is 2 episodes, and the reunion is 2 episodes. So, yeah. It's 7 episodes left to fill, which is only just a couple more eliminations to get it down to, I think there's like 16 people left in the house, and cutting it down, there's a redemption path, and I'm assuming 2 pairs come out of the redemption house. We'll see. Only time will tell. I would agree on the boredom part if the format wasn't designed to create dissent within teams, right? There are people who have motives to make it to the final. If they make it to the final with their team, does not seem like it is a part of the list. It is make it to the final by any means necessary. So that means there's no attachment to these individual people within the house, right? Outside of getting wins, the only person that you should be attached to, and I'm assuming because there's a lot of people who talk in this house, there's a lot of rookies that have been talking, that there's a lot of rookies in the house for sure still, or a lot of new people to the house as a whole. But the fact of the matter is, I'm sure there have been plenty of people, in particular Anissa, in particular Bananas, Devin, Tori, all of them who are very familiar with the bloodline situation, and they understand the value of their partner being in the game. I'm sure there are some people who have speculated in the back of their mind that just because you didn't go home with your partner or whatever doesn't mean there's not a redemption house aspect of it. There's people who are angling for that, just like there have been people angling for teams this entire time, or angling for the everything breaking off into individual partners, right? So there is 100% jockeying to protect people on the other team from both teams. Now, yes, winning is going to come first, but making sure that your ride or die is the last person standing on their team is definitely on people's list of things that they have to do. Now, moving on to episode 10, the new teams get their first debut, and let's be for real, I'm going to start off here, and we're going to power through this because guess what, guys? This was the most boring episode of the entire season. The new teams debut. The challenge is simple. It is also sponsored by Puss in Boots, which, by the way, shout out to the MTV for going out there and getting that bag. Hopefully everybody got paid. Hopefully everybody got paid individually based off of the sponsorship for Puss in Boots because they kind of leaned into it way too much. Oh, also, I need to change something real quick. There we go. We learned if teamwork make the dream work for a lot of these teams. The challenge is simple, ladies and gentlemen. We have a comment here. If I'm a guy, I'm hard throwing every girl's comp to keep my ride or die safe, which we'll talk about in episode 11. So there's also the underlying aspect now, if you've been in the game for a long time, of like trying to figure out who's throwing challenges in a logical way. Some of them kind of hint at it just a bit too much, right? But anyway, so this is what we got. This is what we got here. There's two sides. There's a plank in the middle. The plank is probably, like 5, 6, 7 feet wide or something like that. You walk in the middle. You shove your opponent off. You win. You stay on your elevated part of the plank. By the way, it's elevated really high over the top of a lake in Argentina somewhere. So we have a lot of situations going on here. This one comes down to not much strategy. Comes down to who's stronger. This seems like a really good, once again, we talk about how production has a major influence on how things go down in this show. So they have one of two things. This is either a strength one, or this is who understands that low man wins. Guess who doesn't understand that low man wins? The purple team. Team Mariah does not understand at all that low man wins. Also, every person on Fessy's team looks like the Monstars from Space Jam. So they have Chauncey, who probably could have been sent out multiple times, but they sent him out once. They sent out Fessy. He eliminated, I want to say, Horacio and Kenny. He eliminated Kenny in one push because Kenny thought maybe he could trick Fessy into messing up and falling in the water. He could not because Fessy has a basic understanding of footwork. Other thing to work on this one. By the way, Kenny is a prime example of what happens when you put like a regular person on the challenge, I think. Right? Like a regular, normal, processing human being on the challenge, and that's why it looks so funny to us. Anyway, Fessy also, what is it? This is almost a clean sweep. Literally, the Team Mariah only had one win, and it was Horacio knocking off Bananas, which immediately suspicious of. Immediately suspicious that Bananas threw that to make it look good for production, so it wasn't a clean sweep. Other thing in this one, really surprised, I didn't hear anybody talking about kamikazeing in this one. So it is the tactic that we've seen before in like redemption situations, especially ones where the decider of who advances or who survives or who gets the point is based off who touches the water first. And I want to say this time around, they used who had their body on the plank last. With one situation, Nelson got carried off of the plank with the opponent that he was going off against with. And usually they're like, whoever touches the water first is the loser, and whoever touches it last. Exactly. It is, Jamie says it right here. Shane did it in Invasions. There was also a Redemption House challenge where like somebody got Darrell eliminated from the Redemption House by literally just like jumping at him and dragging him off of the platform and then flipping in midair to make Darrell touch the water first. That is something that I was shocked that I did not see Team Mariah do, but I'm also not shocked because they're all rookies. Like, they're super inexperienced, and maybe it never even crossed Devin's mind because he was like, well, there's no time to impress. It was Tony that did it. Tony, one of the best competitors ever, but understood very well. But yeah, it was one of those situations. It was like 100% one of those situations where, like, we're small. If we can drag these dudes off the edge, it stops being a massive lopsided victory in their favor and starts becoming like a 50-50 about who touches the water first. Like gravity and all that kind of stuff like that. Anyway, didn't see any of that. Maybe they told them beforehand that they can't do that kind of deal, because that would be like my go-to thing. It would be the first thing I would say in the huddle. If we're in a situation like Team Mariah was, where they were outweighed in literally every single matchup, especially with the girls. This is one of the few times where Anissa's current physical condition was useful for her, because it gave her a strong base and she just shoved her opponent off the plank. It was too easy. By the way, they promoted hard. They promoted so fucking hard, and while the promotion was going on, I made a joke to my girlfriend. I bet you they give money away typically with these sponsored daily events or whatever, and I was like, I bet you right now, the prize for winning this is going to the premiere of Puss in Boots. And lo and behold, that is what happened. I was joking about it, and it was actually what happened. If you won this challenge in this daily challenge, you got to go to the world premiere of Puss in Boots, which hopefully means you got to go to like the rap party or like a party beforehand or something like that. Also, opportunity to get some glam going on a little bit. Maybe meet Antonio Banderas. Maybe you meet the legend himself, Antonio Banderas, who had like a little recorded segment beforehand. Shout out to Antonio Banderas, one of the greatest to ever do it. Really appreciate him. One of the best accents that flows between two languages of all time. Like, Antonio Banderas uses the same accent for his Spanish and his English, and you can understand every single word that he says in either language very clearly. Love it. One of the few, like, he was legitimately one of the people that I used to listen to like, learn conversational Spanish. Anyway, like I said before, this is one of the least fun episodes of the entire season. The daily was a sweep, except for Horacio being able to beat Bananas. Team Mariah... anyway, like I said, we've been calling into question Bananas' behavior the entire season for obvious reasons. So, we got to wrap this one up real quick because I got to go and be in Katy, Texas. But we're going to power through this and get some high-quality information out of this one. Horacio gets put into a very bad situation called elimination. So they have interrogation. It is guys only, and it seems like that's going to be the format from here on out. It is guys and gals. Guys and gals weeks rotating through. Depending upon that, you pick out of the four. Well, start off with four on each team, and you select them up front, and then the dagger does the rest of the work, right? Horacio, by the way, the dagger aspect, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Horacio ascends to 4-0 because he absolutely dominates Kenny in this one. The production team had their work cut out for this one. They had to spin a lie like I've never seen spun before. Horacio was at least one door ahead of Kenny the entire elimination. So there was a series of tools that were on a board, and you hung on a board, and you can only use one tool per the 4 doors to get to the buzzer to win elimination. The first door was a wall of sheetrock, a challenge classic, right? A wall of sheetrock. The next one was, I think, a series of chains or something like that, and the other one was like a steel door with multiple padlocks on it, and the final door was a bunch of a door full of screws, and if you wanted to open it, you had to unscrew every screw that was on the door. So they had like pliers, they had a wrench to be able to unscrew screws. By the way, Kenny looked like he had never used a wrench before, but we'll talk about that later, I guess. Anyway, he's a dad. How does he not have dad powers? You know what I mean? Horacio dominates because apparently he's got a background in construction. Once again, Horacio keeps checking all the stereotype boxes, man. First of all, he's from Texas. He plays soccer. He has a construction background. Played college soccer, all that kind of stuff like that. He's like he fits the I'm from Houston dynamic so hard, even though he's from El Paso, he's so from Houston, it's ridiculous. Horacio ascends to 4-0. He ties Leroy and Wes. Leroy, one of the most beloved competitors in the history of the show. Wes, one of the most dominant, actually the most dominant competitor in the history of the show. He has the best elimination record ever with like 25 wins in total, and I think 11 losses or something like that. But this is Horacio's 4th elimination win, ties him for the single season elimination record, and I guess what, guys? this ain't gonna be the last time Horacio's in elimination. If he goes 5-0 in this one, Horacio 1 has already cemented that he is Rookie of the Year in my eyes, because not only has he won an elimination with his partner Olivia, but he has now won one without. Although it was against Kenny, it was without his partner out here, who is one of the few rookies to prove himself in the pit without having any of those concerns, right? He's proven it by himself and with the team, which is two difficult dynamics. Another twist is revealed after the elimination. Kenny walks off sad into the darkness of the Argentina forest, never to be seen again, as he goes to the hotel to go back home. Then they redirect him and turn him around, and TJ, after everybody's gone home and everybody's back at the house feeling all nice and warm and comfy, reveals to Kenny that as long as Casey is in the show, he will be as well. That is interesting, which is the Bloodlines twist to a certain degree. It is a modified version of it, but nonetheless interesting, because at some point, all the people who are being collected at the quote-unquote redemption house will have to, one, earn their way out, and then two, makes you wonder, if your partner got eliminated, is that the purge? Is that the purge for this season? Your partner has to win in the redemption house, and you've made it long enough in the show that you get to, like, legitimately your entire show comes down to whether or not your ride or die who got eliminated for a reason can win a redemption challenge to keep you in the show. If not, you get sent home. That'd be kind of wild. Also, number one reason why you should be protecting your ride or die at all times, not just when they're on your team and helping you, right? Players are not eliminated unless their partner is. And that redemption style house is going to be interesting. This also implies that there is, down the line, a return to partners, which could be huge for some of these players as individuals. Now, moving on to episode 11, we're going to power through this one. It was huge. It was actually massively important, and it gave us a little bit of insight to everything that's going on with both of the teams, right? Both teams, at this point, Team Mariah in a bad spot. They're down 1-0, and it doesn't seem like they were even real competition in that elimination challenge. Team Fessy, they're feeling themselves. They're riding high, all that kind of stuff like that. They also get a stern reminder they have some of the most treacherous players in the entire game on their team. We'll talk about that. This is also Trivia Day. Trivia Day is huge in the Challenge House, and we'll talk about that, why, a little bit later on. The episode opens up with the purple team down a player as Kenny has been eliminated. The orange team has unnecessarily begun betraying each other. So at the elimination of Kenny and Horacio, that resulted in Kenny and Horacio ending up in the zone together, the Team Fessy has a situation where they don't know who they're going to vote for. Oh my God, we've all just been sitting around for an entire day and we have no idea who we're going to vote for. Oh my God, they're lying. Half the people on Team Fessy know who they're voting for. The other half have been left out in the dark to try and figure out what's going on, and they huddle up together. They literally turn towards each other and huddle up, and it has got to be the most difficult task on the face of the planet to be a person that is in on a massive form of deception, to pretend that, oh my God, none of us know who we're voting for. Oh my God, how do we even get in this situation? And just to look dead in the eye at Nelson, who they have betrayed, and be like, oh yeah, dude, we already decided it's going to be Horacio. We have enough numbers. We don't actually need your vote. We get the majority vote every single time. So yeah, that happened. They pick Horacio in a sweep, except for Casey, who does not. Olivia doesn't pick Horacio because their rider dies, right? Anyway, that is intentional deceit. Nelson catches onto it. Also, apparently, Nelson identifies that Nelson, Olivia, and Chauncey are the people that don't know exactly what's going on, and so the chopping block seems to be filled with those three names for when it's time to eliminate someone. Tori has a diary entry where she's just like, yeah, maybe, just maybe, we did keep some people out of the loop for certain things because, one, Olivia's ride or die was the person that we were going to pick. And I was like, well, if you're going to pick them, what was going to happen? Was she going to go around and convince people? Was she going to blow up in the house or something like that? Was she going to reveal the plan that everybody in the house knew was going to happen? Anyway, these are the questions. These are the days of our lives. Anyway, Trivia gets a challenge extreme update. So they strap everybody onto, literally they strap everybody into a giant spinner wheel, a giant circle, and they spin around for like an undetermined amount of time. And when the spinning stops, it lands on a person that's on the wheel. That person is now answering a question from TJ after being knocked delirious, seemingly, or whatever. The competitors, like I said before, are also punished with wrong answers. So one wrong answer results in 30 seconds of spinning. Don't know how fast they were spinning, because I know the first time around they spun them to, like, you know, really get them dizzy or whatever, but it seemed like they slowed it down significantly and then sped up the video to make it look like it was going faster and to move the episode along, right? So the competition goes until one of the two teams gets 5 points. So I have written here in my notes, explain Trivia's weird history in the challenge. All right. Trivia, historically, has been like relatively basic questions about life, and the revealing that these people on the challenge have no idea what the hell like they're doing. Outside of like working out in the gym, they probably can't give you very much on this one. So, legitimately, we've had instances where people have like misread. You know what? Why try and think of things that happened in the past? Because Trivia's legacy is so long and so strong. I'm going to tell you the fucked up things that happened in this year's trivia episode, right? So here are the worst. These are the major misses. Some of them were small ones. Like there was one about like every question was around a duo, like identify this dynamic duo, which makes sense because it is ride or dies. The other thing to point out here is, oh man, so there's one question where it's like, what are the names of the sisters from Frozen, which is like Anna and Elsa, right? That's hard for some people who have never watched Frozen. Like, a lot of people have watched Frozen, but it's not like 50% of the people on the planet have watched Frozen, right? Some major misses on this one. Amber misses right off the bat with what I can only assume. Yeah, so Jamie LaFranc in the comments puts Dutch is Australia's language, because there's a reference to one time when Johnny Bananas was on the challenge and they asked him what is the official language of Australia, which is obviously English. If you know anybody from Australia at all, they speak English, and he says Dutch, which is kind of messed up because in theory, if they had asked New Zealand, he might have been right. Also, at one point, was it the Dutch or was it it was the Dutch that colonized Australia, right? And that's what that messed up thing was. Like, he could have been like, what's the official language of South Africa? And it technically would have been correct. At one point, he would have been correct. Anyway, Amber's question number one, I doubt that Johnny's got that deep of a grasp of like world history, but he could have been on that. Anyway, I will also point out they always have you in like the most precarious situation answering trivia questions. Like, for instance, when Johnny was doing that, he was being held by a cord while leaned over a giant lake. And I want to say that was, I have no idea what country it was in, but it was pretty high off the ground. So it probably affects your brain processing power. Amber was asked, who is C-3PO's dynamic robot partner? And she has no idea who it is. She's like, is that a cartoon? Somebody says it's Star Wars. I think it was Devin. And, yeah, it was R2-D2, right? Like, that's super obvious for a lot of, like, geeks or, like, regular people or whatever. Casey has apparently never heard one of the most iconic homophobic lines in the history of homophobia. She was asked, who is the original couple from the Garden of Eden, right? Or, like, the Garden of Eden. Or, like, who is the original couple of humans that God created, right? She's apparently never heard the iconic homophobic line of, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, which I found to be very funny for a queer woman to not know that line, right? Anyway, she says Adam and Eden and then gets it wrong. Chauncey lost his black card in 4K. They asked him, who are the dynamic, iconic tennis sisters from Compton? The obvious answer is Venus and Serena Williams. He doesn't even give an answer. So they asked him, like, you should have heard the words like sister and tennis, and there really should only be one answer, right? Sisters and tennis. Doesn't even matter what the rest of the question is. I'm answering Williams sisters. Anyway, his response, instead of giving an answer, is, I'm from Boston. Which, if you're a black person and a black person from America, you get how ironically funny it is for a person from Boston to be like, I don't know those black girls. I'm from Boston, right? Even if you're a black man. It's pretty funny. Devin fumbles the bag on the game-winning question when they asked him who is the dynamic music pair, or who is the music pair that came together to make Empire State of Mind, which is a song about New York. Let's hear it for New York. That song. Anyway, it is. He says Jay-Z first, which leads me to believe that he threw this question on purpose. He says Jay-Z at first, and then he says Rihanna, which there is a version of Empire State of Mind with Rihanna in it, and that's kind of messed up that they marked that incorrect, because the right answer, the original answer, is Alicia Keys. So I thought that was, I didn't realize that until like a day later, where I was like, oh, damn, like he's actually right, because I've actually heard, I think we all have heard the version with Rihanna in it, or whatever, we just didn't realize it. Anyway, Empire State of Mind, Alicia Keys and Jay-Z, in case anybody ever asks you at gunpoint, just so you know. He also gave, it kind of almost gave hints of I'm painfully white-itis, not knowing that it was Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, because if you're a person who listens to music, the difference between Rihanna and Alicia Keys, although both of them immensely talented, very large difference as people. Did get Jay-Z though. Interesting. Oh, by the way, confirmed at one point during this challenge, Mariah and Fessy probably just fuck buddies. Like, probably just friends with benefits. She doesn't know when his birthday is, and he doesn't know how many siblings she has, but they're ride or dies. Interesting. Jordan not knowing how to spell Anissa's last name, totally understandable. Not knowing how many siblings your friend has, probably because you've never met her family or hung out with her family at all. You know. Anyway, Orange Team wins again. Team Fessy wins again, which I think is Orange Team, because if only there was some way for me to be able to identify the team colors. Anyway, Orange Team wins. It's a ladies' week. Mariah, Amber, Nani, and Nuri are on the block for potentially going directly into elimination, and the other three will be at the dagger trying to figure out what's going down, right? Team Fessy / Orange / whatever color they're actually assigned decides that they're going to actually try and go and weaken the purple team this season, or this week after their dub. There was a distinct effort and a distinct comment made about we need to take out somebody who's going to be very good. So Nelson, really upset that he's not like in the loop on a regular basis, is in the loop on Nerese being the person that they're going to vote directly into elimination. Nelson also probably coming to the realization that he doesn't have as much sway on his team as he possibly thinks that he did have. As much sway on his team as he thinks he did. Because he also mentions, I want to go back to being partners because it is way easier and I have way more influence. Oh, for real? When you're in a 50-50 partnership, it's like way easier to influence the person that you also like are actually cool with, as opposed to these other people who like only are cool with you to the extent that they can get something out of you. Oh, what a thought. Anyway, they say Nerese's name off rip, right? She's the direct vote in. Before this, Nani promises Mariah and Amber that she will save them if she pulls the dagger. Similar to Nelson earlier this season, Nani actually lucks out. Nelson, remember, Nelson got put into a situation where he had to pick between Olivia and Fessy, right, to go into elimination. And then even earlier, there was one that was like egregiously bad, where it was like you got forced to pick and betray the person up front and early, and I ended up with Olivia and Horacio getting put into elimination, if I recall. Nani lucks out, and Mariah pulls it, and she selects Nani, which is the best case scenario for Nani, who would set up a double deal, right? Amber, surprisingly, oh my God, couldn't have seen this coming, finds herself feeling betrayed again by somebody who went out of their way earlier in the episode talked about how they trust him, and then later on in the episode, when things got a little tough, was like, oh, well, I'm going to keep my cards to myself because now we're technically all enemies and stuff. Where it's like, that's not exactly what's happening. Anyway, that happens. How many times, I have to ask this question, how many times does Amber have to cook somebody for y'all to believe that she's for real? How many times does the champion Amber, the Amber who got the B removed from the back end of her name because she is the one and only dominant Amber in this game, she is Amber Prime. How many times does she have to send one of your friends home? How many times does she have to throw a wrench in your plan? How many times does she have to literally run circles around you for people to stop disrespecting her name? It's almost like it's not about the way that she plays the game or something. It's weird. Anyway, the elimination is a new version of pole wrestling. It gets the extreme. Actually, it doesn't get the extreme or update. It gets the Argentina update. They use a pato ball, which is a part of the sport. Pato, which is horseback riding basketball. Sounds fucking sick. Needs to be on ESPN. Needs to be on ESPN in general. Need to see that. It is the official sport of Argentina, so paying mad respect and homage to the country that they're hanging out in, which, by the way, has to be insane. Wonder how close they were to the World Cup final when they were in Argentina. Must have been like months later, right? The World Cup final must have been like months later. Anyway, it's a silver sphere, and it has multiple handles on it. First one to get 2 wins wins, and the only way to get a win is pole wrestle rules. So you got to get both of your opponent's hands off of the ball. Drink every time Amber gets betrayed. 3 episodes into the season, absolutely wasted. Anyway. Silver, like I said, it's a silver spear. Apparently the handles move, which is not great for maintaining grip strength or anything. Amber, once again, flexes the hardest flex of all time and shows surprising levels of overall strength and flexibility versus Nurys. Nurys gasses out in the first attempt, which was Amber's strategy. She literally just held onto it. At one point, both of her arms were behind her back, and she was just holding on to the ball, waiting for Nurys to give up and realize that, Amber's core strength is on 10 at all times. At all times, no, a core has not been missed. A core day has not been missed by Amber in literally centuries, and she's like 23. Anyway, the second round, Amber is able to isolate Nurys' arms, legitimately, basically had her arms fully extended out behind her, which is, of course, the worst position possible to be in if you're trying to hold on to something. Amber is in between her 2 arms, gripping the handles. She wrestles it away from one hand, and she wrestles it away from the second one, ending what is easily one of the most impressive rookie seasons from a person that we've been much hyped about joining up with the show. And quite honestly, man, it's a bummer that she had to go. You know what I mean? It's a bummer she had to go, but when it was all said and done, Nurys has a lot to hang her hat on. She won Fix Nelson in this game. And honestly, if it wasn't for the team game change-up type of deal, it really felt like Nelson and Nurys were about to run away with this season, which, of course, production was like, well, we can't have that. I'm kidding. Which, actually, if they decided there was going to be a team aspect to the game, on site, would actually explain why there's not 2 different colored jerseys. Anyway, other stuff going on. It also probably is a good way for people, if you're trying to be one of those people who sends out spoilers and stuff like that, to throw them off. Everybody's still got their regular gear on and everything like that. Anyway, they're called 2 different team color names, but don't have 2 different team color jerseys, and it really rubs me the wrong way. Amber claims her 5th elimination win and continues her absolutely absurd run in the show. The big takeaway from this episode is that Team Orange is winning, but their dishonesty is creating a rift, which, by the way, doesn't necessarily matter because winning has to take precedent over everything, because if you lose, going into elimination. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that kind of situation, right? Unless the team dynamic allows you to switch teams here relatively soon, you're going to see Team Orange and Team Green, whatever, stick to their guns and continue to power forward, right? Continue to power forward in terms of trying to get wins, unless they add in another aspect of it, because that would actually make sense for this season, because they've thrown in 7 twists. The team aspect, the bloodlines part of it, and then of course the ride or die aspect of having an actual friend and not an assigned partner necessarily goes a long way. Anyway, none of this drama is possible unless the ride or dies are for real on the show, right? I know that they hate the fact that the competitors have a lot of times where they're like, hey, man, this isn't going to go this for me to protect my partner. It benefits me to throw this challenge. So that's what I'm going to do because it messes with the results, right? Like it messes with the results. You're not getting a straight up competition, but that is a part of the game. You may not be getting a straight up competition, but it's a part of the game, baby. You know how it goes. Anyway, on that note, that is my 9, 10, and 11 summary and reaction to each one of the episodes for the challenge as a whole. I appreciate everybody who tuned into the show today. Anyway, I'm trying to get my there it is. On that note, make sure you wash your hands, wash your ass, drink water, please. If you're at the happy holidays to everybody. This will not be the last episode I do this week. I'm trying to do one tomorrow. I'm trying to do one actually later tonight and post it tomorrow. But one thing I will point out: don't let people shame you about how much or how little food that you eat. It is the holidays. Enjoy yourself. People cooked all this delicious food and now they're trying to tell you that you can't have any, right? Don't do that. Be respectful of each other. Make sure you don't drink and drive. If you do drink, make sure you pour it up nice. Don't be that person that just pours like a bunch of liquor and then a splash of Coke on top of it. Be better than that. Also, don't get belligerently drunk. Don't talk about politics. Watch football because guess what? I don't give a damn about the Christmas. I'm just kidding. Anyway, the Lord's Day, NFL Sunday, is Christmas Day as well. Make sure you got every single game on because it is late in the season and each one of these games decides whether or not your shitty football team goes to the playoffs. Me, on the other hand, I don't have to worry about that because the Texans got eliminated literally 2 weeks ago. Seahawks, on the other hand, we'll see. I'm out.